So say you live in a smaller living space, say it's an apartment, a dorm room, or some sort of shared living space that's smaller. What reptiles are best for those living situations? Well, in today's video, we're going to be discussing just that. My name is Nick Pulaski. Growing up, I have always had a passion for wildlife, and with that passion, along with my passion of filmmaking, I get taken on some amazing adventures creating wildlife content, getting up close with a variety of incredible animals. So come follow along as I pursue my goals of educating, inspiring, exploring, and conserving wildlife, all while having fun, seeing the beauty in our natural world. Hey, what's going on, everybody? Thank you so much for joining me here today. So today's video is all about reptiles that I personally suggest for smaller living situations. And that could be basically an apartment or a dorm room or some sort of small shared living space that you have with someone else. All different types. That's what we're going to be going over today and what I personally recommend as suggestions for those living situations. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to recommend my personal top 5 reptiles that best suit smaller living situations, and then I'm also going to add a bonus one at the end of this video, so stick around till the end. But if I don't list a reptile that you guys personally suggest, definitely leave it down in the comments below. I and other people would as well too appreciate your feedback as well, so definitely leave that in the comments below. Normally with smaller living situations, like mainly apartments, normally what commonly happens is during those times, normally there is going to be a pet policy, and it's normally a stricter pet policy that is no loud pets or no reptiles in general or no big dogs, anything like these kind of things. There are ways to get around it. Normally I don't recommend that you do these kind of things. I'm not going to advocate that you do, but people do hide and do these things all the time commonly. People normally have to switch their living situations up commonly, and they go from a house to an apartment or whatever the situation may be, and people normally take their animals with them, and this is something that commonly happens. It's life at the end of the day. These things do happen. Depending on your situation and stuff like that, maybe being upfront with some people may be the best way of doing these things, talking about how you don't have something that's noisy or anything like that. There are other situations where some people unfortunately will just shut it down. So I mean, you just got to play off and kind of see those kind of things. Again, not advocating that you hide these things, but I mean, sometimes I know and I get it that these things do happen. I have had animals in apartments in the past, and I've had to hide them as well. Luckily, these guys are normally silent, so it was never something that was a problem. But yeah, while on the topic of being silent, that's mainly what you would want, is something that's not going to be extremely loud or anything like that. So not like different frog species that are going to be croaking or certain other species that are going to be loud and thudding around or anything like that. You don't want those kind of things. And for food sources, I'm mainly talking about crickets. So crickets, they are loud, they start chirping. If they get out, they start chirping in different places as well too, all throughout your apartment. They can get anywhere as well too and start chirping, and that's just not a problem you really want to have. So being conscious of something that maybe doesn't have crickets as a staple as their diet is probably something that I would also recommend as well too. So thinking about those things is also a big thing as well too. And that's something that I would take into account to basically respect your neighbors and respect any kind of living situations as well. Not to mention, I wouldn't want to hear crickets all day long as well. So I've been there, I've done that. It's not a fun thing, that's for sure. That's why you don't have crickets in your diet anymore. So the other main thing that you guys want to also worry about when you're thinking about getting a reptile in a smaller living situation is the maintenance that's involved in the smell and the cleanup and stuff. So you don't want that to be something that you neglect in general anyway, but like especially in a smaller living situation, the smell can definitely be potent in a smaller area. So you definitely want to make sure that you're being diligent. You're always making sure that you're on a schedule for cleaning and doing spot cleaning and maintenance for your reptile, because not only is it good for your neighbors or people that you share a living situation, but it's also important for the reptile, the most importantly. So making sure that their habitat is also clean is also something that is crucial to make sure that you have a successful time housing your animal in these smaller living situations. So that is something that will make sure that you are happy, the animal is happy, and the people around you in surrounding areas of your building are also happy as well too. In general too, I also recommend for reptiles that you also work with escape proofing the enclosure. So making sure that they can't get out of their habitat basically gives you great peace of mind knowing that your animal is locked and secured in their habitat and they have no chance of getting out. So these guys are escape artists at the end of the day, especially when we're talking about snakes and stuff. You want to make sure that the habitat is nice and secure to make sure that they don't escape and get into the building or anything like that. So always keeping those things in mind as well is a crucial thing as well too. So it gives you great peace of mind at the end of the day. But enough chit chatting, let's get down to the top 5 list. We're going to be starting with the first one here, which is going to be the Western hognose snake. Western hognose snakes are amazing, amazing snakes for sure. They are really, really cool. Come in a whole bunch of diversity and morphs and colorations, which is really, really cool. Personal favorites are probably the super condas as well as the yetis. I think those are really, really cool colorations as well too. They are really, really cool reptiles to own for sure. Very placid, very mellow animals. They do also play dead, so they can huff and puff and be like that. They're mainly more dramatic when they're younger, I've noticed, and then they kind of mellow out as you handle them more and get more accustomed to you. But they are really, really placid animals, which is really great for their temperament and why they are so popular, and they're gaining popularity in the pet trade as well as they do not get that big. So males normally will tap out about 1 to 2 feet in length. Females normally will get to a length of about maybe max 3 feet. For an enclosure, you can get away easily with something that's around the size of a 20-gallon for a male, and then for females probably around a 40-gallon for them, and that would be totally fine for them. A lot of manageable space for these guys that they'll sit comfortably in there and live out their lives totally, completely fine. Those are great size enclosures for a smaller living space, nothing too big for them as well too, so that's also really, really good. Again, for any of these reptiles I'm going to be recommending for you guys, this isn't a care sheet whatsoever or a care guide. This is going to be something that I'm going to be suggesting these animals, and for you to be doing your research to make sure that these animals fit into your lifestyle at the end of the day. Now with these guys, you want to keep in mind that they are also rear fanged venomous. Now they have to really, really gnaw on you to actually inject any sort of venom. It's not fatal or anything like that, but it can definitely make you break out and kind of have a reaction, some more than others depending on the reaction. So kind of looking into those kind of things is also pretty important, that I want to say as well too. But doing your research on the snake is definitely something I would recommend doing beforehand. But yeah, like I said, the Western hognose snake is a fantastic species of snake for a smaller living space, that's for sure. So the next species that I'm going to be recommending to you guys is actually sitting in my hands right here, and that is Ruby. So she is actually a leopard gecko. Now leopard geckos come in a whole bunch of diversity and colorations and morphs. So this is actually a raptor, which is a form of albino right here, and that's why she's called Ruby, is because of her ruby red eyes. So she is a gem in my eyes, that's for sure. Leopard geckos, like I said, this is a full-grown adult right here, so nothing too crazy big whatsoever, but these are totally something that is great in terms of smaller living spaces. Very social, as you can see, very, very relaxed and mellow as well too. Can just totally sit on your hand and be totally fine. I just kind of lift her up underneath her chin and she'll just keep adventuring around. Very, very relaxed and very, very cool. Overall, leopard geckos, very, very simple to keep. They don't require much room, very easy to maintain. They're actually kind of like cats, believe it or not, where they actually will go in a designated corner to the bathroom. So it's actually pretty nice for maintenance and cleanup, where it's kind of like a cat with a litter box where they have a designated spots. Leopard geckos are pretty much the same way. So at least the ones that I've personally seen throughout the years are normally like that, where they'll designate a spot in their enclosure to actually go to the bathroom. Pretty cool, pretty convenient. But yeah, leopard geckos overall, great temperament, great in size, and very easy to maintain. So definitely doing your research and checking out and seeing if a leopard gecko is right for you. But I think these guys make wonderful, wonderful pets. What do you think? So the next reptile that I'm going to recommend at number 3 is one that is a huge commodity in the reptile world, and that is the ball python. So ball pythons kind of teetering here a little bit. They can get a little bit larger in terms of pet snakes, but they are very manageable, and that's why they're so popular, is because they are very manageable snakes, and they may require a little bit larger of an enclosure, so definitely keep that in mind out of all of these animals. I know a whole bunch of people and seen so many people successfully keep ball pythons in smaller living situations for sure. So it can be done if done properly. So making sure that you do your research, making sure that you can maintain and take care of a larger enclosure for that animal, that is something that I would personally recommend. If you can do that, I definitely think that a ball python is definitely a great option for you. Males are definitely smaller than the females, so males will typically on average get about 2.5 to 3.5 feet in length. Females can get about 4.5 to like 5 feet sometimes, but I mean that's on larger scales as well too. So definitely keeping those things in mind, and then the girth of these guys as well too. They can definitely be a little bit thicker when they're girls, and then definitely a little bit thinner when they're boys. So those are things to also consider. But yeah, ball pythons overall very quiet, very easy to maintain. Again, it's hard to not keep them on this kind of list because there's a reason they're so popular in the pet trade, is because they are very manageable in all types of living situations. And they come in a whole bunch of different morphs as well. Thousands of morphs for sure. So definitely a really cool pet for sure. On the list is another gecko gecko species, and that is actually going to be the crested gecko. So crested geckos are really, really cool and have picked up a whole bunch in popularity, skyrocketed, I would say, in the past 8 to 10 years that I've personally seen them. They've been around for forever, but not to the capacity that I've personally seen them. And there's a reason why. They come in so many different colorations. They're really cool to look at. They actually don't have eyelids, so they actually lick their eyes to clean them. Really cool to see. Definitely go check that kind of thing out because it's really cool to see in person, and I always get a kick out of it when I see them. But they're kind of like little monkeys at the end of the day. They do these really cool hops, they move around, and they're an arboreal species of lizard, which basically means that they like their enclosures to be taller rather than wider. So they love to be climbing in trees and canopies and stuff like that in the jungles, and that's what you basically want to mimic for them in their habitat, is something where it has a whole bunch of foliage and plants in there that they can climb around in and feel secure. And that's going to be something that's really going to be nice, especially in a smaller living situation, is especially if you love plants and maintaining plants, looking up and researching what plants go well with crested gecko setups and bioactive setups is another thing to look into. Doing something like that and making it kind of like an art piece in your apartment or your living situation, that is something that you would want to do, is looking into doing those kind of things and really making it kind of be a staple kind of thing. And if someone comes in to say do maintenance or anything like that, they may not even notice that there's an animal in there. There will probably just look like a whole bunch of plants and an art piece. So that is something also to consider. Very easy to maintain, don't require a lot. They don't really need something that's a high heat source whatsoever. They actually don't prefer those kind of situations, so you want them to keep them a little bit cooler than other species, that's for sure. Their diet is super easy as well too. It comes pre-made. All you have to do is add water and mix it up, and then you give that to them, whether it's a Pangea diet. So you feed them that, and then maybe a protein source of insects maybe once a week as well too. Definitely looking into those kind of things is what I would personally recommend doing. But yeah, they are a phenomenal species. Like I said, they have a whole bunch of different colorations and morphs as well too, but you can literally find them as cheap as 40 bucks, so they will not break the bank whatsoever. So definitely a cost-effective animal that can look really cool in a smaller place. So definitely recommend crested geckos. And lastly, for the top 5 species of reptiles for smaller situations, before we get to the bonus one, so stick around, is going to be the corn snake. So corn snakes are awesome species of snakes to get into and have as a pet, especially in a smaller living situation. They don't get extremely large like a ball python. They definitely can get longer, but they don't get extremely large, and they are very, very manageable and very, very easy to maintain, have great phenomenal attitudes, I would say as well too. Very, very mellow and placid. There's very, very few corn snakes that I have personally met that have kind of had attitudes, but it's definitely something that can normally be worked out. It all takes just some handling and stuff like that. Once you gain that confidence, the animal will gain that confidence too. But as babies, they can be a little bit whippy, but that kind of mellows out as you kind of handle them. That's something that always happens in time. You don't need something extremely large in terms of an enclosure for these guys. Their maintenance is super easy. It's not much to feed these guys during a week. It's very cost effective as well too if you're on a budget. It's definitely good for any of these species to kind of budget your space, your time, what kind of finances you can put into these animals. That's what I would personally do. And yeah, corn snakes fit the bill. It only costs you a couple bucks a week to feed these guys if you feed them frozen thawed. Very, very easy to maintain these guys as well too. Not noisy whatsoever. Just make sure, like I said, for all of these animals to secure the enclosures. So yeah, corn snakes come in a whole bunch of colorations and patterns as well too, like a whole bunch of these do, and there's a reason that they are also one of the main staples to the pet trade as well too. And I think the main hump that you would probably have to get over if you're working with a roommate or a dorm mate or whoever is just saying that you have a pet snake. When people hear that right out of the get-go, they're like, oh gosh, they're definitely not going to eat you or strangle you or anything like that. So don't worry about that with these species. But yeah, corn snakes, very, very placid snakes at the end of the day, and people might find them cool. And say if you have a dorm mate or a roommate, as long as you responsibly introduce them to the animal and not just throw the snake at them or something like that, I'm sure they will think the animal is very, very cool themselves. So it's all about that main introduction. First impressions are the most important, right? So as long as you go about things in a respectful and great positive manner and show the snake off in a positive manner, you'll get a new snake lover in no time, or a reptile lover in general, no matter what. But mainly I would see these things commonly happening with snakes. So, but yeah guys, there's my top 5 list. Now let's talk about the bonus snake that I personally recommend. Alright, so here's the bonus, and the bonus, I did just give that hint that it is actually another snake species. I'm guilty for that because I have a whole bunch of snakes, so I'm a little bit biased. I will not lie about that. But the bonus species that I'm personally going to recommend recommend is the children's pythons, the spotted pythons, the Stimson's pythons. The Anteracia is basically what I'm going to recommend, because those python species are super, super placid. They're nice to handle, very, very mellow, and they do not get large whatsoever. It's a smaller species of python as well too, coming from Australia. As long as you do your research and figure out the pros and cons of each of these animals and seeing which one fits best for you, I would definitely put in there the Anteracias of the spotted, the children's, and the Stimson's pythons. I think that's a wonderful, phenomenal snake for smaller living situations for sure. Very, very mellow as well too. I love that species for sure. So yeah, guys, there is my list. Like I said, if you guys think of anything that I personally didn't recommend, let me know down in the comments below. I want to hear your suggestions as well too. We're all here to help each other out at the end of the day, so definitely leave those comments down below, and just let me know your feedback in general. I would love to hear that as well too. Thank you guys so much for watching today's video. If you guys could do me a few favors, if you could like this video and subscribe to the channel, I would greatly appreciate it. It helps this channel tremendously when you do those types of things, as well as hit that notification bell and check me out on my social media. We're posting a whole bunch of fun content there, so definitely want to check that out as well too. So definitely see all the highlights from my past adventures and all these really cool animal encounters there, so definitely go check me out on social media. Thank you guys so much again for watching today's video. It truly means the world to me, and until next time, Ruby and I, we will see you guys soon. Take care.